if we don't forget why it is in reality that our business actually exists, not just why we think it exists. Hi, I'm Zach. I've been a software developer for 12 years now. I've also been running a software development and marketing agency for the past 7. One of the underlying questions that I've always been asking myself, and maybe you have too, is why does my business exist? What purpose does it hope to achieve? Why am I doing this type of work and not another type of work? Now, for many of us, the type of work we do is just a function of how we were raised, the type of thing that we tended to do, our hobbies, what people wanted us to do, what our parents wanted us to do. For me personally, I always drifted towards technology and computers, and I just always had a deep interest in them and trying to understand how they work. So because of this, obviously, I ended up doing something with computers like software development. Now, I'd love to hear from you why you chose your line of work. If you could leave a comment about why you do your work, that would be great. Now, fortunately, many of us are able to choose at this point whether we keep doing this type of work or branch out into a tangential field. But I would argue that we should always be asking ourselves the question, why am I doing this now? What is my hope for the future if I keep doing this type of work? So separately from how you ended up doing your type of work, there's a different question, which is why does or should your business exist? Now, some people might just say, well, my business just actually exists to make me money, and that's just the point of it. And yes, I absolutely understand that way of thinking. Like, we absolutely need to make a good income and provide for our families. But in reality, the only reason the business can exist is because other people are finding what you're offering of a high value. They view it high value enough to exchange the money that they've earned from their job for what you're giving. It's a very interesting system where both people or both parties can be happy with the outcome. You can just make a cup of coffee and you are valuing your service at maybe $3. The cost of the actual materials for the coffee is $2, and you're able to sell it to another person for, let's say, $6. You make an additional profit on top of your hourly. It's a very interesting system, right? That both people can be happy, that you are happy with your set price and they are happy with the cup of coffee. They deem it as more valuable than their $6. Now, this is just a very simple example, but the point of it remains the same, which is if we can continue to find more ways to add value to the transaction, people will be happier to pay more, which works out great for us as well as them, because now we're just doing the exact same process as that cup of coffee at a slightly higher level. No doubt all of us want to be able to charge more for our services, but if we're able to continue that same markup process and have the other person be happy about it, that's amazing. So just take a second to think, what's one thing that you could add to your current product or service to make it a little bit more valuable in the eyes of the customer? Now, usually people have a hard time with that sort of question. Like, if I'm making a website for a customer or I'm selling them a coffee, I probably can't sell them a second website or a second cup of coffee because they only have one business or they only want one coffee right now. So how am I supposed to add value exactly? Well, there are a few different ways. It could be pre-selling them the next coffee. It could be offering them website hosting because it's related to websites. It could be selling them or getting them their website faster. Maybe for the coffee, it could be signing them up for some sort of service where you'll have their coffee ready at that time before they get there every day. There's really no limitation to how custom or how white glove of a service something can be. For example, I recently went on a short vacation and we were renting a car while we were there. But then I found out that even if I was willing to pay an extra $100, $200, there were no rental car companies in that area that were willing to bring the car to the airport. Now, let's just say that there wasn't some sort of bureaucracy or legal regulation that was restricting them from doing so. What if you were one of those car rental companies? Now you have a new opportunity to exceed the service of all the others, start giving out higher ticket service and be able to charge extra fees just for adding this convenience of I'll pick you up at the airport, I'll drop the car off right to you. And there are all types of these things. Perhaps you can think of very few customer service experiences over the past 3 years, 5 years that have been so nice that they've stood out in your memory. So if you kind of review in your mind the last few times that you've had any customer service experience, good or bad, and you just think of the ones that had nothing, they weren't bad, they weren't good, they were just neutral. Well, those are also opportunities. You don't have to only look at the bad ones as opportunities. You could also look at the good ones and say, how could I implement this in my business? For example, one of the most impressive companies in the world and obviously most successful is Apple. So how could you become more like Apple? Maybe you could improve the quality of your packaging. What other company do you know besides Apple where people will keep the boxes in their house for years after they have used and maybe even gotten rid of the original product? That's how nice their boxes are. Now that's some kind of goal. Imagine if people were keeping the boxes of your product for years in their house. Now you might think, I don't care if people keep my boxes in their house. I just care if they paid me well and if they left me alone afterwards and they don't bother me. I get that. But think of the brand recognition, the brand value that builds up in their mind, how they will speak of you to other people who ask about the service. If they loved your product so much, they keep the box in their house. That is one of the reasons why they are the most successful company in the world. Because they value their brand and they make sure that everybody else does too. And then think about how much effort they put into just that one thing and then do that for every part of your business. Imagine a business that took as much care of the customer service as, let's say, Chick-fil-A, a business that was as consistent and reliable and had the warranties of Costco, the brand recognition and brand prestige of Apple. These things don't necessarily have to be expensive because maybe you're starting out and so you don't have an amazing budget to work with and to make extremely fancy boxes. How could you make your things nicer? How could you make your business more reliable? Well, for customer service, it could just be making sure you show up on time, be nice, be pleasant, be encouraging, and make the person feel good. It might be hard work in that time, but it's a long-term investment. Plus, you will be happier as well. More reliable. This is an extension of the customer service as well, but maybe you can start offering some sort of warranty or guarantee in, I don't know what service you're selling, but maybe you can apply that principle. And in the brand prestige, let's say you don't have a big fancy budget to spend excessive amounts on just your packaging. Could you maybe even just adding a handwritten note? These are little things that can kind of achieve the same result of improving the look of your brand. Could you make sure that your equipment is nice and clean when you show up to the site? So while we're all in business, of course, to make money, if we don't forget why it is in reality that our business actually exists, not just why we think it exists. If we don't forget that the point of it is to offer high value to the customer, then the customer is not going to forget about us. You see, even when the customer falls on hard times, no matter what economic phase we're currently going through, the customer always wants the best quality that they can afford. But if we are always the best quality and the best service, the most reliable, the prestige, then we're always the first choice. Please let me know in the comments if any of these were helpful or insightful for you. That's all for today. I hope that helps. Thank you very much for your time.